Some state's attorneys from across the state say that the criminal justice reform legislation that has been implemented with more provisions set to kick in January 1st is going to bring Armageddon to the criminal justice system. What are they talking about? It's the Safety Act. And I want to get your response to this at 217-629-7970. Again, 217-629-7970. That's the phone number here live on WMAY. Springfield's News and Talk on 92.7 FM, also on the WMAY mobile app. And you can also email me, bishoponair@gmail.com. You can connect with me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Just search out Bishop on Air, and we can connect that way. So what am I talking about? It's the Safety, Accountability, Fairness, and Equity Today Act. For short, it's the Safety Act, and that's a measure that Democrats passed in the early morning hours back in January of 2021 at the tail end of the previous General Assembly before this new General Assembly was sworn in. And it did a whole host of things. It had issues about pre-arrest diversion policies, regulations on policing, pre-trial sentencing, also dealt with corrections. And these are things that came together kind of through some conversations over months, but the final package didn't surface until just before it was voted on back in January of 2021. So Democrats approved that, despite police and law enforcement groups raising concerns and even Republicans pretty upset at the passage of it. And the governor ultimately did enact it. And one of the things that's most concerning, it seems, is the end of cash bail January 1st. Now, a background briefing from House Republicans at the State House with several state's attorneys from across the state, a bipartisan group of state's attorneys, they essentially said this is going to bring about Armageddon. And one in particular said, this is reality. With the new law, our hands will be tied. What sane citizen in the state of Illinois would want the state's attorney's hands tied, the police hands tied, and give all the perks going to violent offenders? That's what this law does, the state's attorney said. Calling it Armageddon whenever the cash bail system is changed January 1st. I want to hear from you. Again, 217-629-7970. Do you have concerns about this? Because what they're saying is violent offenders awaiting trial will be let out unless the prosecutors, the state's attorneys, can meet an increased burden. All right, so you need to be able to file a petition with the court to say this individual is a flight risk. This individual is not expected to show up at the trial whenever they're supposed to be here, so they need to be kept. And this will apply to a whole host of different types of offenses, including, I think they said, was second-degree murder in certain cases. Now, whether or not this is retroactive, one of the state's attorneys said that the way they read it, it indicates that there could be as much as 250, and they said this, 250 suspected murderers let go pre-trial just in the Cook County area. Now, I talked with another source that said that this does not go retroactive. It's prospective, so moving forward. So that wouldn't be the case for people who are currently held. But who knows? January 1st comes around. We'll see what happens. And what about litigation? Is there going to be litigation from the state's attorneys against this law? That's not necessarily something that they have in mind. However, one state's attorney said that litigation could come from a victim who may sue the state, saying that this Safety Act violates their victim's Bill of Rights by, possibly leading to increased intimidation, their victimizer being let go, and so on. So you've got this obviously a major campaign issue, and during the Monday forum with the GOP candidates, Gary Rabine, businessman, he said that Illinois' immigration enforcement needs to change, but he also called for the repeal of the Safety Act.
We got to be able to also recall a Kim Foxx or any crazy communist state's attorney.
So obviously this is going to be an issue heading into November, but State Senator Dale Fowler, he was part of the Paul Simon Public Policy Institute presentation yesterday, and he laid out some of his thoughts about the Safety Act, and in particular, he said, Democrats may have realized they went a little far with this legislation and are probably looking for a variety of different reforms to bring about.
What we've seen is, when this criminal justice legislation was passed into law, the fact that a lot of the Democrats saw that some of the issues that they may have not have seen in the fine print of the legislation. So they see that there's some repeals that need to be made.
So I want to get your calls now, 217-629-7970. That's the phone number here for WMAY and Springfield's Morning News. Do you have concerns that cashless bail is going to mean more criminals are out on the streets? Or do you think that those concerns are overblown? And what do you think about some states' attorneys saying that this is going to bring about Armageddon? 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
I think it's a little bit of a drama queen type thing. But to say that we need to trust, I think it was overdone. I want to give that as a caveat. That having been said, this, again, another poorly written bit of Illinois legislation came about as reactions to things like the counties. Some of the smaller counties, you go like Greene, Calhoun, the ones that barely have anybody there, do arrest people and then charge fees for the amount basically equaling bail. They use it as a fundraiser even if people aren't guilty. There's a reason we have an Illinois Torture Commission. We're the only state that has one. And it had to do with abuses from the police. We've also had different things with abuses from the state attorneys who very often, again, in the smaller counties, they'll stay in places that have no other career opportunities so they can get a nice, cushy government job, both parties, and they aren't really qualified to do their job. They probably came in bottom of their class, and you have these counties like Scott, Calhoun, Greene, the ones that you can hear banjos playing in the background when you cross the county line. That have these.
What's wrong with banjos? I don't get what's wrong.
Yeah, deliverance. Squeal like a pig. Anyway.
So ultimately what you're saying, though, is there's legitimate concerns that this legislation looked to address, but it may have gone too far in some instances.
Right.
Do you have concerns, though, that we're going to see? And I want to hear from others, 217-629-7970. But do you have concerns about the cashless bail system?
On that, I think they need to reach balance.
And one of the things, listen, okay, and I appreciate the call. Very limited on time. One of the things that the state's attorney said was the threshold is too high. They could apply for a filing and have this filing ultimately say, hey, judge, you need to keep this person because they're a flight risk. But they said that the burden of proof has been increased to a point where they can't just say, listen, this guy didn't show up the last time he was arrested 5 years ago. That indicates he's going to not show up this time. You need to keep him behind bars. That's no longer enough evidence, the state's attorney said. Now they said the threshold's been increased to the degree of they actually have to produce like plane tickets and say, see, he bought plane tickets. He's a flight risk. He needs to be kept behind bars, or she needs to be kept behind bars. And that's something that the state's attorneys say is going to make it extremely burdensome, increase the amount of resources they need in order to keep what they say are violent offenders behind bars. What do you think about the bail reform? We're going to hear a lot about this heading into the election. Good morning.
I think it's absolutely horrible. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning.
They're really what it sounds like from everything that you're saying is that they're really trying to make it a black and white situation. Whenever anything to deal with the police, the judicial system is never black and white. It's, are they going to run? No. Okay. Let them go. Are they going to run? Yes. Okay. Keep them in. No, it's not a black and white system. It's, we need the cash system in order to deter people from committing crime to begin with, because if they know that they can just, show up and be like, nope, I won't do it again. It's okay. I'm not going to flee. And then they're out, and then they do something worse. It's happened before. It will happen again.
And I think there's been examples in other parts of the country that indicate this. Everybody, I appreciate you tuning in and chiming in, and we always look forward to your conversations. We do that here in the 8 o'clock hour with a variety of topics. So I appreciate the time that you have today.